Now to the serious business, back again. Starting with the market outlooks. First, Mina and Amir Rasad. Where are you, Amir? There you. Oh my, I'm sorry. Please. The stage is yours. Welcome.
Hello, hello, hello. Really good to be back. Good to see you all. You're all looking very good today. Thank you. So, before I start, I want to say that this is by far the best conference, and I really think we should all give a very warm hands of applause to the great organizers behind this. I'm here today to speak about the MENA timber markets, how they're performing now, but also what we can expect from them going forward. My name is Amir Rasad, CEO and founder of Timber Exchange. We're probably most famous for our webinars that some of you might have seen, where, for example, from Finland, Mr. Ville Valio and Mr. Tommy Sneck have spoken. Some of our most popular episodes, actually. But we do much more than this. We have built the most comprehensive timber market tracker that ensures that you never sell below market price again. And we also invented B2B digital customer service, which automates 85% of your export work and ensures that your clients are always kept up to date. And now, without further ado, let's discuss the MENA timber market. And to begin with, I want to start with a global indicator, because the MENA timber market is a very sensitive part of the world, based on a lot of feelings. So, in the Global Lumber Barometer, we ask 100 plus market leaders, how do you see the market? How do you see prices developing over the next 3 months in your home market and your primary international markets? And as we can see, in red, in July last year, almost nobody believed, almost 50% of companies believed that prices would keep falling over the next 3 months. But very soon after, the sentiment started improving, and the latest, which we see here in green, is that 75% of respondents believe in increasing prices. And what's driving this change? I believe it's global inventory levels. The global inventory is very low when the market is very hungry for timber, when it's at 20 million. And it's very high and oversupplied when it's at 22 million. And in April last year, it reached as high as 23 million cubic meters. And what we see very clearly is that it's falling ever since then and coming back within the normal span. And what's really interesting is what happens when we overlay this. Lower inventory levels directly leads to much better market sentiment. So, what's the outlook for the MENA region? And here we can see the summary for Egypt, Morocco, and Saudi. Import levels are likely going to be stable and unchanged, but construction activity is increasing in all markets. But only in Egypt can we expect other key industries to consume more timber than before. So, how's the market doing? Let's start with the MENA as a whole. Last year, the region's GDP halved its growth to 2.5%, to 2.2%. And this year, a recovery is expected at 4%. And timber consumption overall is expected to grow 9.5% until 2028. And in total, across the region, there are $3.7 trillion in projects throughout all stages. And the majority of these are in Saudi, UAE, and Egypt. So let's start with Egypt, the biggest market in the region. Here we can see the imports of Egypt over the past decade Russia, which used to be a market leader, has lost considerable market share, and Sweden and Finland are now the major players. And this is official, the Russian data is official data according to the Egyptian customs. How's Egypt's GDP doing? It did really well during COVID. It grew as high as 6.5% and has slowed down now a little bit, but it's expected to pick up and grow at 4.7% this year. The economy, unemployment is currently at 7% and inflation is at 20%, but it's down from its peak at 36. The external debt is at 152 billion, and there are plans to reduce it by $2 billion annually. Last year, 15.7 million tourists visited, and this actually surpassed the previous record of 14.9. Unfortunately, one of the main income sources of dollars, the Suez Canal, has lost a considerable amount of revenue, 7 billion, or equivalent to 57%. How's the construction market doing in Egypt? Well, over the past 9 years, 1.6 million homes have been built. And last year, the construction sector grew by 6%. And the residential construction market last year reached $19 billion, and we can expect it to continue growing at 8% until 2029. Two major projects in Egypt have also been announced, the 21 billion South Med project and the 35 billion Ras Al Hekma project, which we can see here in the background. And of course, we have to mention Egypt's flagship project, the new administrative capital. Phase 1 is 90% complete, and currently there are 10,000 families living there and 14 government entities and ministries working from there. Phase 2 is starting right now, and it's going to be focused on smart technologies. And in total, there are more than $200 billion of agreements signed. How's the housing market in Egypt? Well, Egypt expanded the social housing program to 14 additional cities last year, and in total, last year, 165,000 homes were built. But the government doesn't stop there. It plans to build a further 550,000 more affordable homes. And now, I want to show you what's happening on the ground. Volume, please. So, how's the timber market doing? That's why we're all here, right? Currently, there is 800,000 cubes in inventory, and there are 4 vessels in the port. In high demand, we have 25 millimeters in all grades, as well as 50 by 150 and above. There's low demand currently for 38 millimeters and narrow 50 millimeters. The construction sector is extremely active, as well as pallet and packaging. Unfortunately, the furniture sector, which previously was very strong, is performing quite poorly. And here we can see over time how inventories and prices in Egypt have developed. Inventories reached its peak in November last year and have come down to a more manageable level, and prices have now started increasing since July in Egypt. Let's move on to Saudi Arabia. Here we can see Saudi's annual imports over the past decade. During COVID, they did quite well, and it increased quite significantly, but now it's come down to a more manageable level. The economy is also performing relatively well. It's been growing steady. Unfortunately, last year was a bit of a bump. It grew only 1.5%, but this year we can expect 4.6% of growth. Unemployment is currently at a very low 3.7%, and there are plans to increase the population to 60 million by 2030. And Goldman Sachs predicts that there will be $1 trillion in investments by 2030. And a new very important law just took effect now. There's a new investment law that allows and grants foreign investors the same right as local investors. How's the construction market? The construction market, the construction sector typically represents 6% of GDP. Last year, it grew by 4%. And this year, the output of the construction sector is expected to reach $150 billion. And we can expect 5% annual growth until 2027. And by 2028, the output value will reach $181 billion per year. And this is when it becomes the world's biggest construction market. And under the 2030 vision, there's more than $880 billion of giga projects, many of whom you will see in a bit that are already underway. There will be 780,000 agreements for commercial use that will be delivered this year, and there's a further 2.7 million agreements that will be delivered for residential use this year as well, according to the Ministry of Housing. So, how's the housing market doing? In 2024, real estate transactions worth $168 billion were completed. And between July 2023 and July 2024, transactions increased by 52%. And the social housing program, called Sakani, had 117,000 beneficiaries last year. And the government plans to invest $1.3 billion this year. And over the next decade, we can expect $160 billion in investments in housing. To note some of the more important projects, we have, of course, the National Housing Program, which launched in 2018. 310,000 homes have been delivered, and there are plans to build a further 900,000 homes by 2030. Of course, we have to mention NEOM. Contracts have been finalized for community villages worth $5 billion, and these will house 95,000 residents. And then with phase 2, we have a further 20 community villages which will be worth $8 billion and house 200,000 residents. And these are being contracted. Then, of course, we have the line, which is approximately 20% of all infrastructure is complete. But the project size has been reduced by 2.5 kilometers, and it's expected to house 300,000 residents by 2030. And a fun fact that might be true, that is true according to sources, the line project is supposedly using 20% of all steel production in the world. Of course, Saudi plans to host the 2034 FIFA World Cup, and for this they plan to build 11 stadiums. And recently, the metro opened in Riyadh and soon in Jeddah. The Riyadh metro is worth $25 billion, and it's opened 6 lines with 85 stations. And Jeddah, which is soon opening, it's worth $16 billion, is underway, with 4 lines covering 140 kilometers. We, of course, have the Red Sea project, worth $28 billion, which is due in phases until 2030. The first phase was completed last year, and it has opened. You'll soon see it. So let's take a look.
Do you still have one?
Yes,
Okay.
almost finished. So, how's the timber market performing? The 2025 timber year in Saudi is expected to be better. Inventories are currently on the higher side. Demand for spruce is strong, but demand for pine is challenging. And the local market is experiencing a little bit of delayed payments, which is affecting cash flow. And overall, prices are slightly on the way up in Saudi over the past quarters, which is very good. And quickly now to Morocco. The GDP growth in Morocco is increasing, which is good. This year we expect 3.5% of growth. Annual imports in Morocco are pretty steady, which is good. Unemployment is currently at 21%. Inflation is at 2.8%. And Morocco, this is important, plans to transition to a floating exchange rate in 2026. In parallel, also, tourism has increased by 20%, reaching 15.2 million. The construction sector contributes 6% to GDP and employs 10% of the workforce. They plan to spend $12 billion over the coming 5 years after the earthquake. And there's been a 600% rise in rural construction projects. And fun fact, last year, cement sales increased 10%. Currently, there are more than 90 large projects in Morocco at various stages. And 2025, we can expect 5% growth. They're building the FIFA World Cup. Let's move ahead to the most important part, timber market. Today, demand is stable and back to pre-COVID levels. Housing activity is stable. The market is getting ready for the World Cup. And there's high demand in sideboards and 63 millimeters, and there's low demand for 5th grade. Unfortunately, we're facing competition from panels, and pallet activity is okay. Prices are stable. Hopefully, they will increase. And as a thank you to you all, we have a very special, we want to thank you all and that you experience what we do. So we have a small offer so that you can experience what we do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.